just welcome everybody who's tuned in so far and give an overlay of what we're going to be talking about. We have a very important topic here. It's uh, garbage disposal, waste, solid waste management. And I think what we should do now, Frank, is play the national anthem and carry the program further.
Okay, will do.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the
That was
That's a
wonderful.
good one, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's great.
Frank, I got to compliment you. I don't know where you find these.
I just go to YouTube and I type in anthem half an hour before the meeting, but there's so much out there. Those people were great, though. That really gave me goosebumps.
You know, those guys made me want to feel like I was in the room singing with them.
Yeah, that was really, really well done.
That might destroy the whole presentation. Anyway, we have a great program today, and I just wanted to review the people. Bill, are you going to read off the?
I got it. Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone, and
Good.
welcome to our LIMBA meeting this morning, April 2nd, 2021. We'd like to recognize our major premium sponsors who happen to be Louis Joe's, Avalon, Avilas, Gershaw Recycling, Covanta Energy, and National Grid. These are very prestigious organizations, and they're committed to the community they serve in many ways, and we appreciate that they are committed to our mission. Thank you all.
Okay, and now I'd like to introduce my good friend for many years.
1 second, Ernie. We have Lee Silberman
Oh.
from Habitat, who's going to
Yes,
say a word.
okay, yeah, Lee wants to speak, and she should.
Yes, please.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lee Silberman, CEO of Habitat for Humanity. We're the sponsor for today's meeting. It's my privilege to sponsor this meeting. Ed Romaine and the town of Brookhaven is a great partner with Habitat for Humanity. They're great supporters of affordable housing. And with this topic of waste management, I also want to put in a plug for our Restore. Donations to Restore in the last fiscal year, we estimate has prevented over 1,000 tons of materials for going into local landfills. But again, it's my pleasure to see my good friend Ed Romaine, and I look forward to a great program this morning.
Thank you very much, Lee, and thank you for sponsoring several of our programs. Habitat is a wonderful organization, and we're very supportive of it, and you know that. Today, I'm going to introduce our speaker. I think we're ready for that, aren't we, Frank?
Yeah, I think we are. Yes, please.
And Ed Romaine has been a man I've respected for so many years because of his commitment to the community. One of the things that impressed me about Ed many years ago was when he became county clerk. County clerk office was a kind of a mess. It was like operating in another century. He took over that organization, and what used to take 2 hours to complete took 10 or 15 minutes after he was finished with that assignment. And everything he handles with the people in mind, and that's the kind of leadership that is not only appreciated, but sometimes more rare than it should be. And so I consider Ed a personal friend, and I have for many years. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce him this morning. He has a very big agenda on this topic, and he has a lot to offer. Good morning, Ed. It's your ball field now.
Well, good morning. First, two things. To my good friend Lee from Habitat for Humanity, thank you for sponsoring this. The town of Brookhaven is delighted to work with Habitat for Humanity. And to Ernie Fazio, one day we'll get Meglev on Long Island, Ernie, because of your efforts. So thank you. We're going to start off I always believe in something more visual that we can appreciate. And the topic, Long Island solid waste crisis, starts off with something that reminds us of that crisis. There's a picture of the barge from 1987. I remember it because I was in the county legislature then, from the Islip garbage barge that went around the world for about 3 weeks, 3 months before they could find a place because no one would take our garbage. And we're in that situation. So let's go to the next slide. And if we do the next slide, hopefully someone puts the next slide up.
Just a second.
Okay, there we go.
Hold on 1 second. Why this is not letting me do this.
Okay. Well, while you're looking to do it, I can talk a little bit about it. And there's been numerous articles in Newsday about the garbage crisis that we're facing. And there it is. And that editorial, I believe, is from 2013. And then there's another article about the Long Island Planning Council agreeing. And they talk about a looming crisis. Honestly, we do not have a looming crisis. We have a crisis now. The crisis is upon us now. There is no regional plan to resolve how we handle our solid waste and what we do and the approaches that we take. And part of that problem is the failure of the state DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, for Region 1, that's Nassau Suffolk, to sit down and put together a plan. The towns and the villages each have their own plans and they're not coordinated. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. And when it pops up, it's going to say we're facing the future crisis and the crisis is now. And why is that? Well, and there we go. Long Island produces a lot of waste, about 4.6 pounds per person per day. And we have almost 3 million people in Nassau, Suffolk County. Well, they said 2.8, 3 million. I'd like to give us a few more people. And we're producing about 2.4 tons of waste per year. The solid waste management is a regional issue and requires a regional solution. We can't have every one of the 13 towns, and God knows, I know in Suffolk there's 30 villages. I think in Nassau there's many more, making decisions on how it should be done. And the county is not, neither county is involved in waste management. Long Island lacks the disposal capacity off the island that we, we don't have a disposal capacity on the island. Ever since the landfill law was passed in the 80s, we have no ability. The last landfill that's operating is the Brookhaven landfill, and it's going to close in 2024. Most commercial waste is already disposed off the island. Oyster Bay and other towns like North Hempstead ship their waste off the island. Now, the Brookhaven landfill and 110 Sand and Gravel are the two places on the island, the only two places that take construction debris. And after 2024, with Brookhaven landfill closing, that's a huge problem if you're in the building industry. Next slide, please. The landfill was built by the state of New York, the State Environmental Facilities Corporation, in 1974 and turned over to the town in 1976. It has operated since 1976 as a landfill, but it's reaching its usable life. When I ran for supervisor, my predecessor, Mr. Lesko, had suggested raising the landfill, which is at 270 feet, by the way, that's the maximum height, by another 50 feet. And I said, absolutely not. And the minute I said that as supervisor, we put the landfill on a path to closure. And we will be using up what little space is left in that landfill by 2024 or shortly thereafter. What do? Every year we take 1.25 million tons of material a year. And as you can see, 750,000 from construction debris and demolition, about 350,000 tons of ash from Islip, Hempstead. Smithtown isn't mentioned, but we take Smithtown's ash too because it's handled at Huntington and Huntington. Why ash? Well, when in 1989, the town made a decision not to put any more garbage in the landfill. And we only put two major components that go into that landfill: construction and demolition debris and ash, because we burn our garbage at the Govanta plant in Hempstead. And then we take ash from Islip, Hempstead, Smithtown, and Huntington. And we take about 150,000 tons of BUD. What's BUD? Beneficial use determined by the state that we can take. What's some examples of beneficial use determinations? Well, we can take street sweepings, for example. You see the street sweeper come. What happens to that material? Gets put in our landfill. What else could we take there? We could take dredge material if there's a dredging project. We can take anything that the state allows us to take that's called a beneficial use determination. And we have over 51,000 tractor trailers entering Brookhaven landfill every day. Plus, we have a transfer station there where we collect our garbage and then we ship it to Hempstead where it's burned. All of our, we have 34 separate garbage districts that we put out to bid so they competitively bid, and the garbage contractors or their trucks all run on natural gas, which is provided by the landfill. Next. Okay, we jumped 2 slides ahead.
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
That's okay.
There you go.
What can we do? What should we be doing right now? Well, we obviously have to continue to promote and expand recycling. And recycling took a hit because we as a country used to send a lot of our recycled products to China, and they have stopped taking it. So we have to promote recycling. We also have to develop markets for glass. And I'm holding in my hand, and I don't know if people can see it, but it looks like talcum powder. It's glass. Glass can be used for so many things. We should be using glass as an aggregate in concrete, and particularly in concrete. There are many things that we should be using glass recycling for to encourage the recycling of glass, but the state has not acted on that, and we operate under the state of New York. I have also supported Senator Kamensky and Engelbright's bill on producer responsibility legislation, extended producer responsibility legislation, which says if you make packaging, you better have a way to get rid of it at the end, and you better have some method to ensure that you have a way to ensure whatever you're producing is recyclable. We're also interested in mandatory content minimums to support recycling markets. We want to foster public and private relations to address the solid waste need. We're looking right now at a linear approach to solid waste. We need to look at a circular approach, circular recycling. And we need the state, New York State DEC, to initiate a proactive strategy for the future of management of solid waste on Long Island. The state needs to less to be a regulator and more to be an innovator. Next slide. One of the answers that the town is looking at and changing and looking to change our philosophy regarding waste management, instead of looking to manage waste, we're looking to what zero waste would look like. Does that mean you would get rid of all waste? No, you know, we learned from physics, you can't destroy matter. No, it emphasizes waste prevention as opposed to the end of the pipe waste management. Besides recycling and reuse, zero waste focuses on responsible production, consumption, reuse, and recovery of all products, packaging, and material. The town is making a conscious effort to move to zero waste, the principles guiding zero waste. It's not a hard target, but it will change the way we do business. Instead of looking at solid waste management as a linear thing, we want to look at it as a circular thing. We want to explore pay as you throw. If you go to the town of Southold, for example, you want garbage? The garbage, they're all private carters. They aren't regulated by the town, and you have to hire them as a homeowner. But they will not pick up your garbage unless it's in a certain colored bag that the town sells, I think at $2.50 a bag. And what that encourages is people to put less in that bag because those bags cost money. So pay as you throw, expanding composting opportunities. We're very interested in that and investing, and we will through Channel 18, social media, etc., in widespread public education. And obviously, we're going to need federal and state support for this. Next slide, please. What are we going to need once our landfill closes? Well, coordinating effort to create off-rail transportation. If we cannot get rid of garbage or construction debris in sufficient quantity here on the island, we have to do what many of the towns already do, which is ship their garbage off the island. And to do that, I prefer rail as opposed to trucking. Trucking clogs our highways, it harms our highway. We get, as I said, 51,000 tractor trailers a year just at our landfill. Imagine, and when you consider the 13 towns and numerous villages, what they have to do and the trucking that would be involved. Right now, 19% of the freight is moved by rail in the Northeast, but on Long Island, it's only 1%. So the Long Island Railroad, their passengers may be dropping off because of COVID, but let me tell you, the freight business is there if they would rebuild. Rail facilities are being considered. In Brentwood, I don't think that's going to happen. In Medford, the town has moved forward to approve a Medford site, and there are people at the federal government, at the transportation board, the Surface Transportation Board, asking to consider Yaphank as a place to bring garbage and construction debris and rail it off Long Island. We should also investigate the feasibilities, and I know Newsday has been pretty good on this, on maritime transportation. We've got to align Long Island's waste transportation plans with initiatives such as New York City's Freight New York City program and New York State DEC Clean Transportation Plan, because we've got to move garbage. There's no place for it, very little place for garbage and construction debris on Long Island. Even if you burn it, you still have to move ash. And we take about 350,000 tons of ash a year. So we want to consider other things besides recycling and composting, anaerobic digester. The town has approved an anaerobic digester by private industry, Long Island Compost, is looking to build an anaerobic digester, a very expensive one. And we have to take a look at the types of regulations involving transfer stations where waste is brought and then transferred off the island. Next slide, please. Look, we're looking to do a lot of things. People say, well, what's going to happen after the landfill closes? Well, we're looking to make the landfill, what's left of the landfill. We have a multi-million-dollar fund for monitoring and taking care of the landfill after it closes for the next 30 years. We're looking to put solar on top of the landfill. The top of the landfill will have about 80 acres that we're looking to put solar, wind. We've already been approved for battery storage and for fuel cells at the landfill. We're also looking to reduce our municipal carbon footprint. And that's why we have solar arrays throughout town property. And we're looking for the conversion of the landfill as an energy park. Besides the initiatives that I talked about, we're going to be looking to mine the gas harvesting from the landfill and join with the anaerobic digester that's going to be built across the street by private industry, as well as the fuel cells and solar panels. And even after the landfill closes, the picture you see is our regional recycling center. It is the largest recycling center on Long Island, and it will continue to operate because recycling is a large part of our future in terms of a circular waste stream agenda. Next slide, please. Thank you. And that says that's the end of our program. There's a lot of questions out there, and I am going to turn it over to our host. So if anyone has any questions, to run it past him and he'll let me know.
Well, Ed, one of the first questions I wanted to ask you was about glass. And this is something that Jerry Schubel from Stony Brook talked about years ago, about putting it into concrete blocks and roadbed, things like that. You remember Jerry, do you not?
I absolutely do.
Anyway, one of the things I was thinking about was recycling glass back to new glass. Is that a feasibility? And does that?
Of course, it's feasible. It's not cost effective. It's cheaper to make new glass than try to recycle old glass. Much cheaper. So that's why you don't see that happening, and that's why there isn't a market for glass. But for example, I'm going to hold this up again. This is, I don't know if people can see it, put it by my face. It looks like talcum powder, but this is glass. It can be crushed to a very fine consistency. It can be used as an aggregate in concrete or asphalt or any number of products. We need the state to say, yes, you can do that, even on an experimental basis. And the state has been very slow to do that, despite the fact that we're pushing to recycle so many items that we need state approval for.
And the other thing that I wanted to question was ash. And again, Jerry Schubel was a leader in this. And we have examples where it's been built 20, 30 years ago, and it's still a viable product. The concrete the product that they made out of it. I mean, would it be very difficult to move all this ash into that?
Absolutely not. Ash recycling has come a long way since Stony Brook University built the boathouse in 1989 out of ash blocks. It's still there. And you want to know something? They tested the strength. It's actually stronger today than the day it was built. Incredible. Ash should be used in all types of areas, from building things like a boathouse, a garage, a number of things can be used. And it can be used to make artificial reefs, which a lot of people have suggested would be a great thing for Long Island, because reefs, 2 or 3, 4 miles offshore, would break up the wave action and kind of protect us from the next hurricane. So there's a lot of uses for ash, and it's been proven at Stony Brook University that you can take ash, build, as they did, a boathouse. You can't miss it. If you go in to the first entrance. You make a left, and then you make a right and another left, and boom, you see this blue edge, two-story boathouse. It's still there. It was built in '89, and they just tested it. It's stronger today than the day it was built.
So we have quite a lot of questions. This is the largest group we've gotten from a virtual LIMBA meeting so far, 71 participants. So let's get to the questions. Abina, I'm going to ask you to unmute. You had a number of questions. There we go.
Hello, everybody. I am Abina Asari, and I'm glad to be here today. I have a few questions, except in the interest of time, I'll just ask one right now and see about if we have time for others. I definitely did appreciate this slideshow. I loved the effort to include ways in which to think proactively about trying to bring down waste, right? I think that that is great. I think that that's definitely where we have to go. A key absence that I saw within this slideshow, which I think has to be a part of this discussion, is the experience of North Bellport, which is the area which is most proximate to the Brookhaven landfill, which has borne the brunt of our town and our area's waste needs for the past 50 years. They have borne that brunt in terms of impact on their home prices. They have borne that brunt in terms of the air quality. This is a marked EJ area. This is the census tract, which has the single lowest life expectancy within all of Long Island, right next to the Brookhaven landfill. I am involved in an effort to say the experience and voices and people from North Bellport have a key insight to offer in terms of the future of the Brookhaven landfill, in terms of what we need to do with waste. Why is this not a part of your plan? We have reached out to you, sir, many times to meet with North Bellport, to actually meet with us at Blard. We have some insights, we have some ideas, we have experiences that have to be heard. Why is this not in the slideshow? Why have you not been willing to kind of come out and talk to us?
The supervisor address your concerns.
Right. We have met with several people. Bina, for example, does not live in North Bellport. She lives in Brookhaven Hamlet, in one of the wealthiest communities that we have on Long Island. So for her to speak for North Bellport is somewhat disingenuous. I will tell you that that is why, as supervisor, we are monitored 24 hours a day by the state of New York. There's a monitor there 24 hours a day that monitors everything that goes on in the landfill. But I understand the impact of the landfill on the community, which is one reason that I did not, unlike Mr. Lesko or his colleagues at the time, wanted to expand the landfill. I did not, and I am interested in closing the landfill. The same reason that I am concerned about that community and other surrounding communities about the impact of a potential ash fill, which the town considered and rejected for a variety of reasons, one of which was financial, but also the impact on the community. So we're not going to go with the ash fill. So we're going to have to take a different look at waste management. And we're going to have to take a look at waste management not as a linear type of approach, but as a circular type of approach. And we're going to have to emphasize more on recycling. We're going to have to emphasize much more on reuse. We're going to have to emphasize on, and we have to get the state to work with us and the county to make sure that when products are produced, they're produced in packaging that is recyclable, that is minimal, so that we don't have this type of thing. We are going to have a dialogue with not only people in one community, but throughout the town on this issue, and with experts that can speak to potential solutions. So that's, we hear that every day. I'm sure our local council people hear that every day. That's why Brookhaven is one of the few towns that have councilmatic districts. I believe it was the only town to have councilmatic districts. And I understand now Islip is getting councilmatic districts, which allow council people to represent local concerns.
Our next question
Thank
is
you.
from Allison Singh, and she says she's from East-Setauket and has a question.
Okay.
Hi, thank you very much. This was, I really love all forms of community engagement and we really appreciate you speaking. Thank you. I am also a member of BLARG, and I just want to say I'm from East-Setauket, the North Shore. There are many North Shore families who feel very strongly about this, and I don't think it was respectfully saying it was disingenuous of Mrs. I'm sorry. No, I think it's about community. We're all in Brookhaven town together, and we stand with North Belport and the people who have been affected by this for many, many years. And it's the definition of community. And we shouldn't divide our towns and say, if you're in one town, it's disingenuous. That doesn't work. And you know that. And I just respectfully submit that. I don't want to create more division with that comment, but just respectfully, please take that to heart. What concerns me is that shortly thereafter, 2024, there is real concern that this is going to drag on. And I want to know from you what you can say to make us feel comfortable, because
Well, I could say
one second,
absolutely.
I just would like to finish. For our community, all of Brookhaven, including North Belport, it's not only about it being full, it's also about the harm and the impact, not just in North Belport, but for our entire community. Thank you.
Okay, I could say absolutely. As of 2024, the town will close the landfill for all construction and demolition debris. The town would only keep the landfill open to accept ash for a limited period of time if there was any space left. When we estimated the closure of 2024, we did not factor in the pandemic. The pandemic has seen a drop in the use of construction debris during the pandemic, and thus a revenue to the town because there weren't that much construction debris going on during the early parts of the pandemic. But all construction debris will end as of 2024, and the only thing that would go in that landfill any time after that, and that would be for an extremely short period of time, would be asphalt, because if we had space left, it would be a shame to the taxpayers who paid to build the landfill not to use that. But once that landfill is closed, it's closed, period, end of story. And the town recently made a decision, also considering the impact on North Belport, not to build an ashfill, which is something that the state asked us to consider. They had funded a grant. We had spent some of that money on the grant doing the engineering and cost estimates, and we came to the conclusion, one, that would be a burden to the community, and two, it would also be financially difficult to do, and we didn't want to do that. So no, we are looking for different solutions. The shame of it is we have to push our state representatives, and I have to tell you, your state representative, Assemblyman Engelbright, is doing a great job. He just put $500,000 in the state budget to come up for the DEC to start taking a look at putting together regional plans. It's leadership like his that we need. The state has sat on a back seat and not done much in terms of working with all the towns throughout Nassau, Suffolk, and the villages to put together a comprehensive waste management plan. And that plan, in my view, should not be a linear plan. It should be a circular plan, emphasizing particularly reuse and recycling.
So, you know, it's interesting to me that the same way that the individual residents of the hamlets are saying that they should be considered as a holistic community, the supervisor is saying that the counties need to be similarly looked at that way by the state, and they're not. So the next we had a number of questions regarding rail. And Mary Ann Matthews is going to ask one. She has some experience in the industry as well. Are you there, Mary Ann? You should look like you're unmuted.
I am.
Great.
And so what about the benefits of transporting garbage by rail? This is something that we spoke about many years ago. We have a site and have been in the business. We have a site that has rail siding, and it would make it very easy we're out in the East End, to collect from the whole, have a transport station for the East End and move it off the island.
Where on the east end, may I ask?
In Quogue. We have a
Okay.
20-acre site. We had a transfer station there, which is unused at this point. And it's just a matter of activating the rail siding that we have on the 20 acres and processing or packaging the garbage in large plastic containers. So there's no odor.
Well, there are people that have applied to the Surface Transportation Board, which is a federal agency in Washington, to use rail to create a transfer station and to rail garbage and construction debris off Long Island in Yaphank. We have some concerns about that, but the eventual decision will be made by the Federal Transportation Board. I theoretically support rail. Rail is a much better way to move things than by truck on Long Island. We have too much traffic. Our roads are constantly under pressure. I think rail is a much better way to go. So I would be supportive of that.
Thank you.
Okay, Ryan, you are unmuted. Please ask your question from the Long Island Progressive Coalition.
Great, thanks. First, I want to say, kind of feeding back off of Allison, less respectfully, your comment to Abena was incredibly disrespectful. To insinuate that she can't be in a relationship was a purposeful undercutting. You know the work she's doing in deep relationship with folks in the North Belport community because you've consistently ignored our communications. So I just want to note to everyone here that that was a purposeful tactic to undermine the validity of what she was saying, and that is deeply unacceptable. So relatedly, we sent you a letter with the Brookhaven Landfill Action Group signed by over 50 organizations, a lot in the North Belport community, and 50 civic leaders around long-term regional planning, around a transition plan for the landfill, about the environmental justice concerns, about the need for most directed impacted community members to help determine the plan for the landfill. Why have you not been responsive to that letter? And why in your public facing statements around the closure of the landfill did you make no reference to the environmental justice concerns if that's something that you say you care about?
I don't think I mentioned environmental justice. Obviously, that is something not only that I care about, but the federal and state government and regulators care about. It was one of the reasons that we chose not to build the ash fill, which was a thing that was urged. I know that Newsday have been supportive of that. The state had obviously given us funding to do a study of the ash fill, and we made the decision based on financial concerns, but also on the concerns of the impact to the community. I have a very capable board that works very hard and represents all of Brookhaven. I've run for supervisor 5 times. I've won every one. I'm the only supervisor that has run to won all 6 different wards. So I try to follow the majority, which is what democracy is about. It's not listening to the minority all the time. It's following the majority. And I met with all of our civic associations. So that's the best answer I can give you. I mean, I'm sure it's not satisfactory because no matter what I do because of my political affiliation, I find that people from your group have constantly opposed.
It's because we're convening conversations around this in ways that you have not, while you've absolutely refused to meet with us.
I haven't refused to meet with anyone.
So why no response to the letter that we sent?
If you'd like a meeting, give my office a call. I'm happy to meet with people. But the pandemic has slowed down a lot of things, and we can certainly do a virtual meeting. And I'm happy to listen to you.
You've convened meetings with Covanta, the town ad hoc committee.
I haven't convened any meetings with Covanta. So I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm saying we've had the ability to convene stakeholders.
Brian, I'm sorry, we're going to have to move on to the next question.
Be true.
I also think we're sort of repeating the content here, and the supervisor has offered to meet, and now you can take him up on that challenge and try to get him to arrange something. The next
we can do a meeting virtually, not a problem.
The next question comes from someone's name, W. Flower. I don't know if that stands for
Yeah, it's Wildflower.
Will. Okay, please. You are unmuted, Will, you should be able to just start speaking. Oh, he went and muted himself, I think. Let me try.
Okay.
And ask him to unmute again. Give him another chance. There
Can
you
you hear me
go.
now?
Yes, we can. We can hear
Okay,
you.
great. Good morning, and this is such a great opportunity to get everyone together and to talk about this most important issue. I would like to just say that Supervisor Romaine has for a long time been the sole voice
Will,
of
what's your
dealing.
affiliation?
I work for a company called Winters Brothers, which is the largest recycler here on Long Island, Ernie.
Thank you.
So we worked with the town of Brookhaven and with many other municipalities across Long Island. I would like to emphasize that this supervisor has consistently been an outspoken advocate for the proper management of solid waste, and Brookhaven has done an outstanding job investing in the infrastructure which is necessary to manage solid waste. I think it's important to realize that that this is a societal problem, right? It's society's waste that has to be managed. But my question is for the supervisor is, Supervisor, what do you think is the next logical step to create some real comprehensive solid waste management plans, and who is the proper entity to do that? Is it the state through the DEC?
It's a state for the DEC. The DEC has primary jurisdiction over waste management, as you know, and it would be very helpful for the DEC in Region 1, which is Nassau Suffolk, to put together a plan for the two counties for how we would handle waste, how we would recycle waste, how we could reduce waste, things of that nature. We're happy to help with that plan. People thought that they would solve their problems because of the town had considered and the state had funded a grant for us to take a look at building an Asheville. We did take a look at Asheville, and we came to the conclusion that it was not financially feasible. It also would impose a burden on the existing community, and we did not wish to do that. So now, what do we do now? How do we get the garbage off now? Big question. State needs to step up. We're happy to help.
So we have a question from Joe Klein about sand mines and their possible use.
Good morning, Mr. Supervisor. I live in Miller Place, and along Miller Place Road, north of Middle Island, there are active sand mines. It appears they're at least 5 feet into groundwater.
5 feet?
Your affiliation? Just a citizen?
Yeah, I'm a taxpayer from Miller Place. They're actively mining these facilities, and you're supposed to maintain. You're supposed to be 5 feet above. You're supposed to stop mining 5 feet above the groundwater table. So I'm guessing they have very little monitoring. I know it's not by the town, but could you talk a little bit about? I'm worried Brookhaven landfill closes, that there'd be an incentive for the private sector to permit a landfill in that location. Can you talk a little bit about that?
First of all, sand mining is controlled by the state of New York. All sand mines get their permit from the state of New York. They're not 5 feet into the aquifer. They're 150 feet. They're 150 feet into the aquifer. I'm not a fan of sand mining for a variety of different reasons. There are people in DEC that thinks it's very important because without sand, the construction industry would grind to a halt. But I just don't believe in sand mining, particularly the type of sand mining along the roads that you're talking about, because they should be coming to an end. And there is a plan, supposedly, and you can ask your state representatives. There is a plan that when they close, they are to be converted into a state park. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, I do worry that they call the same bud material that Brookhaven landfill accepts, sand mines are permitted to backfill with flood material or.
I would strongly oppose that. I am
Yeah,
opposed to that use.
Part 360
100%.
exempt material. And I mean, there's decades worth of airspace there. And it just when the announcement came that the Brookhaven town landfill was closing, my radar, I just got very nervous about those locations.
That is not going to happen. We're opposed to that. The only way that would happen is if the state made that happen. I doubt that they would. They have plans to convert that to a state park. What you don't realize is that the sand mine that's closest to 25 now has the largest lake on Long Island, larger than Lake Ronkonkoma.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with these situations. No garbage is going to go there. We will scream and yell and holler. We do not want sand mines reused for that purpose. And by the way, my whole town board is committed to that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and given an
including your councilwoman, Jane Bonner.
Yeah, I know. Given an opportunity, if you could stress with the state, that really, I could see that when people start dumping in dead ends, I could see the pressure with private sector. Oh, we'll solve this problem. Let us fill up these sand mines.
No, we're totally opposed to that. We will fight it in court. We will not allow that to happen. As long as I'm supervisor, that will not happen. And my town board is with me on this 100%. The problem that you did talk about, a problem that is going to be a problem. Once that landfill closes, unless the state has a regional plan, you're going to see a lot in private industry and others that will dump in the Pine Barrens and in other areas when they think no one's looking and they can get away with it. Like they dumped in Brentwood.
So we have a question from Lynn about getting the DEC to make it plan.
Good morning, Supervisor Romaine and LIMBA members. My name is Lynn Marr. I am a resident of what I've just found out is an affluent area, Brookhaven Hamlet.
Yes.
When I moved here 30 years ago, it was just a little fringe community, but recently in the 1% flight from the city, it's become a very popular place to live. Recently, we had a meeting with Sean Mahar, who is the chief of staff for the Region 1 New York State DEC, to ask them about what their regional plan is for our garbage crisis on Long Island. And basically, they had no information for us and kind of lobbed the ball back to Supervisor Romaine and the individual towns. Now, my question for Supervisor Romaine is, how do we as a community and you as our supervisor get the DEC to make this plan? We had a 3-hour meeting with them.
We're the lowest level of government. So they're not listening to us, unfortunately, as much as we would like to say. And I try to talk about this topic all the time because it deals with the whole future of our island. We talk to our state representatives. Unfortunately, most of them are in the minority now, and they're not listened to as well. But we do need an approach to solid waste. The state has to step up to its role. The town has no legal obligation to be involved in garbage.
So when you,
for example, Brookhaven, we don't do commercial industrial garbage.
Yeah.
Or we don't do multifamily garbage. If you live in a condo or apartment, town doesn't get involved. We only get involved in putting out to bid garbage contractors to keep them honest. And we're rethinking that too, because if the state continues not to do it, this is their primary responsibility, and it's a shame. So
we have no, like, we had a meeting with them and basically didn't get
your affiliation. It's useful to our audience to know that.
My affiliation.
Yeah.
Well, the meeting that we had with the DEC was through Blarg, but I'm a voting citizen of the town of Brookhaven.
And can you tell us what Blarg is?
Blarg is the Brookhaven Landfill Action and Remediation Group. It was formed I guess the end of last summer since 2024 is the date that the landfill is going to close. We wanted to make sure that we could get to a zero waste solution, work on the EPR, get everything, work every possible arm of getting us to close the landfill.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Judy Greco has the next question. Oh, she is unmuted. Go ahead, Judy.
Hi, everyone. So my affiliation is I am a member of the steering committee of the Long Island Organics Council. It's a newly formed committee under the NYASAR Organics Council under New York State. We actually are having our first meeting in about 2 weeks' time. If anyone's interested, maybe somehow someone can forward me emails. However, we are going to be discussing the future of organics waste on Long Island. My question is, how can we foster a system that essentially enforces compostable recycling, recycled packaging, because this is all a system. The reason why a lot of this isn't working is because we don't have a system in place. So even if businesses want to be good businesses and, do all the right things, have compostable packaging, have recyclable packaging, and have everything a closed loop system, right? How are we going to enforce that if we don't have a legislature that enforces that? Because it all needs to work together. It needs to be a symbiotic system.
Well, the first step, you need is state legislation. And fortunately, there are state legislators that are concerned about this. Senator Kaminsky from Nassau County introduced extended producer responsibility legislation. It did not move forward. I wrote a letter, a very strong letter of support in favor of that. I wrote op-ed pieces, one which just appeared in the Long Island Advance in favor of extended producer responsibility. I think Senator Assemblyman Engelbrecht had a companion bill, was slightly different in the Assembly. We need the state Senate and Assembly to get together and pass this legislation. It'd be so helpful in terms of our efforts in trying to create a circular economy as it relates to garbage, so that things instead of the linear we have right now. So I'm all in favor of that legislation. We'll do all I can as a supervisor to push for that. Now,
and how can we be involved to make sure that this happens? How can we
contact your
see this
state legislators?
Mm-hmm.
There is a bill, as I said, by Senator Kaminsky. Contact your state legislators. I've let my state legislators know, all of them, that I am supporting this legislation. Now, yes, we are the lowest level of government and we're local government, but we are a large town. By size, we're the largest in the state. By population, we're the second largest. So sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. You hope they do, because on this, it's very important that they listen. I am strongly in favor of this legislation.
And can I ask, what's the legislation called again? The specific bill you were mentioning?
Extended Producer Responsibility.
EPR. And one more question. Sorry.
Is it if you have a short question? We only have 7 minutes left, and there's somebody on.
Would there be a way for you to support organics, like organics waste, and composting facilities on Long Island? Is there a way?
There were a couple people online, so I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, Michael.
Sorry, yeah.
Has been unmuted because I thought he would be asking the last question. Can you say that last part again, please?
Yeah, sorry. My question is, we're in the process of establishing facilities for composting as a part of the Organics Council of Long Island, right? And I wanted to see if we could have your support in our efforts.
I strongly support composting. As you know, we have a very large commercial facility called Long Island Compost right across the street from the landfill, and they have proposed building an anaerobic digester. So yes, and this town board unanimously rezoned the property so they could build that. They're having some difficulty with LIPA in terms of getting the power needed, and I assume with their financing, but I am strongly supportive of that, because that is part of the future of having a circular economy.
And how can we ensure that we have your support? Can we have your contact?
Send me a letter and I'll respond to you and write it.
We have,
I always think the best way is to respond to people in writing. And then they have it, and they can say, he wrote it, he said it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Jennifer Green promises she's got a quick question because we've got 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Hi, Supervisor Romaine. For the record, I have voted for you in the past. I live in Bellport. I want to let you know I read carefully the town's announcement about the closing, about the Asheville, and there was no mention of environmental justice in that announcement. And I don't think that you answered Dr. Asari's question, and I would like for you to do that.
Okay, so if you ask the question again, since I will be happy to answer it. What was the question because she asked a lot of questions.
Could Dr. Asari please be unmuted?
Well, no. This is your question to ask.
Yeah, I believe she asked why he didn't cooperate. I recall what the question eventually ended up to be, and that's been an undercurrent of our meeting, and he's promised to cooperate. And I'll also say that we've shared our email address, info@limba.net, and please do let us know if the supervisor will meet with you as he promised, so that we can report back on that.
Let me just say, most of the meetings that take place today are done virtually. So if I'm sorry I didn't catch this, Mrs. Green is her name?
Yes.
Miss or Mrs. Green, you should have my email. Send me an email. I respond to my emails, and we can set up a time and date. And what I will do is listen to everyone that comes on the meeting.
Okay, just to clarify, the question was, why is North Bellport and questions of environmental redress not a part of the planning for the future of the landfill?
First of all, there is no future for the landfill. Second of all, of course, they're a part of the future. The Asheville was being considered by this town, had been funded by a state grant to take a look at. We looked at it. A lot of people had urged us to build this, including Newsday, because it would have been a solution for garbage on this island. And we thought about that very carefully. But we also weighed the cost of building it, and we also weighed the impact on the community. Now, if that's environmental justice, then we obviously considered that as a board. We're concerned about any community. We've had landfills all over this town. Ever go to Holtzville Ecology site? That's our former landfill. That's our former landfill. Okay.
So the landfill site will continue to be next door to North Bellport. And
It will be
as Dr.
closed.
Asari points out, the landfill site must be put to effective reuse and possibly cleaned up.
It is. We have, I guess you don't read the local papers, but we've constantly said what we will do with the landfill. It will become an energy park. We have 80 acres on top of that landfill that we have targeted for solar. We have also targeted to get the gas, harvest gas from the landfill.
So I know we're almost out of time, and respectfully, I would just add that the community needs to have a voice in that planning, sir. Thank you, Dr. Asari, for providing the input that I've been.
They do. They have an elected council person. Because you can say, I represent North Bellport, but if I circulated Dr. Asari's information to the citizens of North Bellport, most people wouldn't know who she was.
I just want to say it's unfortunate that I was given voice to voice this and Dr. Asari was not, but thank you again.
I'm the person that's doing that. And I did let Dr. Asari know that she would have time if there was time. So I allowed you to have the last question because I thought it was more fair, not because I wanted to censor her. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Because I do feel honestly, and I'll let you know, I'm not politically aligned with Supervisor Romaine, that he's been at least responsive in this meeting, and yet he's had to answer consistently to whether or not he's been responsive. So Ernie, I think we've got 1 minute left, just enough time to recap.
Well, I think what we have here is a very complicated situation that the supervisor was able to address to the best of his ability and leave open to the future what the questions need to be resolved. What questions need to be resolved. And I think the participation of the people that didn't participate was very, very important to the supervisor's input. I think we accomplished our mission to expose a very important problem And I want to thank everybody for their participating today.
Thank you, Artie.
Do we want to mention that LIMBA has lost, its source of funding that it had for so many decades, which was the breakfast meetings. So we've added a donation link to the website to help us cover the expenses and continue to have these important virtual town hall meetings. And that's at limba.net. We have a way to make a recurring as well as a one-time donation.
Think of us as a public service.
Next meeting will be Senator John Brooks. Ernie, you want to tell us about that?
Well, I met John Brooks at a Habitat for Humanity meeting about a year and a half ago, I think it was. And I was very impressed with his concern for the community. And I thought I would connect with him and see what he has to say. I think there's some of the topics we actually discussed today, John would be very helpful with. I don't know if the supervisor agrees with that yet or not, but
I do. John used to work for the town of Brookhaven.
oh, so you
I know John very well.
Is he a good man?
He's a good man.
I know. I didn't expect anything different because you are a good diplomat as well as a good politician. All right, so there we are, folks. And
Ernie, one more just sort of housekeeping note.
Sure,
I
go ahead.
don't normally do it because the chat isn't normally of substance,
Hello.
but we did have a number of remarks
Hello.
in the chat involving people's email addresses and whatnot that they wanted to circulate. So along with the video at limba.net, I will
Hello.
post the chat. Is that the,
Good. I'm just ending this call. It was all blog.
okay? Okay, yeah, he's okay. That's it for us. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks with Senator John Brooks.
All right, thanks again. Bye-bye.